Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Gurur Devo Maheshwara, Gurureva Param Brahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Chinmayam Vyapyat Sarvam, Trailokyam Sacharacharam, Tatpadam Darshitam Yena, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Tvameva Mata Cha Pita, Tvameva Bandhuscha Sakha, Tvameva Vedyad Ravinam, Tvameva Sarvam Namadeva Deva, Tvameva Sarvam Namadeva Deva. Jai Guru. Om Sahana Vavatu, Sahana Bhunaktu, Sahaviryam Karavavahai, Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. So we are in chapter 7, Paramahansa Vijnana Yoga, knowledge of the Supreme Spirit, the ultimate reality. So what verse are we on?
12.
Help us out.
Ye chaiva satvika bhava rajasastamasascha ye matta eveditan vidhi natvaham teshu te mayi. Whatever beings and objects that are pure, active and inert, know them to proceed from me, yet I am not in them, they are in me.
Yes. So the idea that Krishna is talking about, what is the relationless relationship between consciousness and the phenomenal world? So, Chandogya Upanishad thunders, Sarvam Kalvidam Brahma, all this is verily Brahman. Well, if that's so, why do we call this Advaita Vedanta? Why do we call it Ekam Sat Vedanta? Ek is one, Sat truth, being. What does Advaita mean? Not dual, not two, literally. Why? Because the fact of my direct experience is I see stuff. I know stuff. What is this stuff? The phenomenal world. And what Vedanta thunders is it looks like two, but it's not two. Had the weirdest dream this morning. So I was back in school like Cal State Hayward, where I used to work. And after I'd done this class, I was in the cafeteria $100. So I pull out my credit card to pay for it. She says, oh, this is expired. Pull out another credit card. No, that one's expired too. So I'll pay cash. So I go through my wallet. All I had was $60. You know, it's weird, embarrassing moment. Freud would, I'm sure, have a heyday with this dream. But the point I'm getting at, in the dream, there was Satvika, meaning there were conscious people, the cashiers, my own dream body where I know stuff. There was the Rajas, there were things that were moving, I had desires, stuff like that. There was tamas, there was the inert fruit, there was the tray that I put stuff on. But all of it was my mind appearing as people, places, things, and conditions. So this becomes easy to understand. You are the God of your dream. Your dream comes about by what I call mini Maya. We reenact the cosmic dance microcosmically every night. So my one mind refracted into knower, knowing, and known. So in a prior verse, Krishna has said, all this is strung on me like gems on a thread, Mani Sutre. Meaning the self in you and in you and in you and in you and in me is all Brahman, it's all Krishna. But here Krishna says, well, actually, that's not totally accurate. I am not in them, they are in me. So there I am in the line at the cafeteria. And the melon pieces, and the lady at the cash register, and my tray, and my dream body, and my dream feelings and confusion, and the dollar bills, the 20s in my wallet. They are in me. I am the context for the world of the dream. All this is in consciousness. It looks like two, knower and known. Three, knower, knowing, and known. But it's not. It's Advaita, not two. So there's a practice implied here. Yoga Vasishta says we must answer 3 questions to have sthita prajna, steady wisdom. The first, who am I? Koham. We do that by taking up the practice of Atma Vichara, inquiry into the nature of the self. I am not the body, I'm not the prana, I'm not the feelings, I'm not the thoughts. Who am I? The space between my thoughts with my attention turned inward and witnessing consciousness. Some people think that's all I need to know. But then they go out into the world and something happens with their job, or a relative or a friend dies, or the politics are not as they wish, or your house burns down. And the world still has the power to upset us. Some yogis think, oh, terrible old world. I need to get away from it. Maybe I'll go to the Himalayas where nothing happens. Right. You can't escape the world. We have to see it for what it is. So we have these two scriptural statements. Brahma Satyam Jagan Mithya, which means Brahman alone is real. Phenomenal world is illusory. Mithya, a lie. And Sarvam Kalvidam Brahma. All this is Brahman. Well, make up your mind. Is it illusion or is it Brahman? Yes. The material cause of everything is consciousness. Go back to the dream state. Vedanta becomes easy to understand if you clearly analyze the dream state. The material cause of the people, places, things, and conditions of your dream is nothing but the fabric of your own mind. Chitta. All this is Prakriti, the stuff of nature, which is Brahman itself. We had that wonderful image. Remember, wasn't it this class that we looked at the lingam and the yoni last week? Yes. So consciousness is the lingam. Prakriti is the womb of spirit. They're both consciousness. Consciousness as the knower, and then consciousness as the stuff out of which all this comes. Now listen carefully. Some of the tantric schools will say that consciousness undergoes a change. They have the term spanda, which means to vibrate. Consciousness vibrates, and that's what makes the names and forms. The Vedanta, which is what Krishna is saying here, no, nothing really is created. It just appears. We have images like the reflection in the mirror. If I go into the mirror, there's a fat old man looking back at me. Sophia goes in and there's a beautiful young woman looking back. Wow, I don't like this mirror, it keeps changing. Is there a beautiful young woman in the mirror? Is there a fat old man in the mirror? The mirror is sthita. It just is. But it has the quality to reflect. Or I can bring out the crystal ball, the spatika. And if I hold it up to you, you see images turned upside down. But I cannot cut open the stone and pull out the images. They're seen, but not real. It's the stone itself appearing as the images. So consciousness is everywhere present, and it is kutusta, absolutely still, like a mountain. Sta tishtati means to stand, establish. So our job is to start with that understanding. It's all going to be okay. It's all going to be okay. So we do our best to dial down our reactivity. This is what's called vairagya. This detachment, letting go. All sorts of slogans. Don't sweat the small stuff. It's all Small stuff. It doesn't mean we avoid the world. You take the next right step. You take care of business.
Jim, can I ask a question?
Please.
What is the importance of the non-dual? And doesn't this whole, like what you're saying about like the consciousness and the womb that receives the consciousness, is that not duality?
It's poetry.
Okay.
So it looks like two. It seems
Yeah.
like there's a noumenon, a knower,
Like a witness and the
and
known
the
and the knower.
phenomenon.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly.
But it's just go back to your mind. Is the knower of the dream different than the objects of the dream?
Yes.
Are they?
So the knower of the dream is the dreamer, right?
And the objects of the dream, are they other than the dreamer himself or herself manifesting as the objects? So consciousness has this incredible ability to fork into subject object.
But they could be one.
They are one.
Okay.
There's the sentient phase, the knower, and the jada, or insentient phase, which is the stuff known. But it's not another substance. That's the point. The stuff of your mind, out of which you make the things in the dream, is still consciousness. Your individual consciousness. You don't have to take silly putty and shove it in your ears to make the stuff out of the dream. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so I guess outside the dream, like in the real world, what that means is, or you're saying everything is a dream.
It is like a dream.
Okay. Got
You
it.
are not dreaming it as Sophia. Ishwara, the infinite, is doing the dreaming of all this. But it comes about in the same way. Comes about in the same. So it's all going to be okay. Because consciousness never leaves its nature, which in the end is Satchidananda, existence, sentience, and no sorrow reaches there. We'll translate Ananda as that.
Thank you.
Good. This is hard to understand for people. And all we can do with the scriptures and with images is point, cannot define. But it's rooted in an experience. In the state which we call nirvikalpa samadhi, the mind ends. Then for the yogi, the world ends. And then when the mind returns, we literally see this mind stuff wave out of the cell. The whole world comes into being. So it's not just a philosophy, rooted in an experience. Is that useful?
Yeah, thank you.
All right. So first, I am in them. They are strung on me like gems on a thread. And then in this verse, well, actually, not really. I am not in them. They are in me. Next verse.
त्रिभिर्गुणमयेर्भावे रेभि सर्वमिदं जगत् मोहितं नाभिजानाति मामेभ्य परमव्ययम्. Deluded by these natures, states or things, composed of the three gunas of Prakriti, All the world knows me, not as immutable and distinct from them.
Not as immutable and
Distinct from them.
yes. So, because of Maya, which we use as the term for universal ignorance, the inherent power of the infinite, the world of name and form comes into apparent existence. The beings in it, which means you and me, come into this world deluded by this Maya. So I think I am my body, or I think I am the transmigrating soul, or the two together. And with that feeling of feeling like I'm a person, I prefer the term that the Saint Gaudapada uses, which is Jiva Bhavana, the feeling that I'm a person. It's not really an entity, it's a kind of thinking. Deeply rooted delusion. It's more like hypnotism. That feeling of Jiva Bhavana is always a feeling of being incomplete, of discontent, restlessness. Then I think I either need to change the world or I need to change me. Then we start the heartache of struggle. I'll be happy when, it'll be better if, more, better, different. Raga and Dvesha. Raga means my desire for things. Dvesha means aversion. I want to get rid of stuff. And that is my suffering. Now, we call that ignorance on the individual level avidya. So those of us who are doing the Viveka Chudamani class on Thursday nights, Shankara has just introduced the idea of what is my problem? I think in order to feel okay, to be free, I need artha. What's artha mean in Sanskrit? Well, so this means all the stuff that I think are going to fix it. A better job, get a husband or wife, get rid of a husband or wife. If only I had children, if only my children weren't so horrible. House, bank account. I'll be happy when, it'll be better if. All of that has its root in this feeling like I'm a person. And anything I think that will fix it, anything that's the result of an action, he labels as artha. And it's always temporary, it's always finite, and it's always subject to the law of diminishing return. You've got chocolates there. Anybody here like chocolate? One chocolate is nice. Try eating the whole jar and see what happens. The law of diminishing return. I love what Swamiji used to say. If sex were satisfying, we'd only do it once. That's not what we do. So Shankara will say the solution is not trying to fix stuff. The solution is rediscovery of my essential nature. Atma Vidya. So those three questions. The first one, Atma Vidya, who am I? Second one, what is this world? That's what this verse is talking about. Third question is, how has it come about? And the answer to the third question is a word that is almost untranslatable into English. And the word is sankalpa. Means wish, will, desire, intention, thought, projection. What are some other possible translations of sankalpa? Can you think of some people?
Determination.
Determination, yeah.
Wanting.
Wanting,
Commitment.
commitment. But it is by means, sankalpena, scripture said, by means of sankalpa, that all this comes about. It is the sankalpa of the infinite. And you and I, to a tremendous degree, manifest our experience of the world through our own sankalpas. So if you have a state of mind that dwells, oh, the world's to be feared, there's violence everywhere, and not only that, Trump, war, pestilence, global climate change, it's terrible, be afraid, that it's real. But for the yogi, what is deep meditation revealed to us? I live, I move, I breathe. All. It's a beneficent universe. It's beautiful. I can prove it to you. No matter how snarky your life is, what happens when you go out into nature and you see that part of the world that we human beings haven't screwed up? You see trees, you see the ocean, you see flowers, you see birds. And if you're like me, your heart goes, is that what happens? That's God's world. Vast majority of the suffering stuff you and I have done. So it's a beneficent world that conspires for our well-being if we let it. Most of us think God's an underachiever. He may have infinite power, infinite intelligence, but obviously he's not living up to his potential because he's not doing it my way. All right, next verse.
Devi Esha Brahmayi Mama Maya Duratyaya Mameva Ye Prapadyante Maya Me Tam Taranti Te. Verily, this divine illusion of mine, made up of gunas, caused by the qualities, is difficult to cross over. Those who take refuge in me, they alone cross over this illusion.
So this Maya, this divine illusion comprised of the three gunas, sattva, clarity, rajas, activity, tamas, inertness. This is the illusory power that moves all beings. Here Krishna says, It is difficult to cross over it, but you can cross over it by taking refuge in me. Now, we've talked about this. We study Gita at 3 levels. The first level is as the Dharma Shastra, gives us behavioral things to do. We can study it as identified with Arjuna, the universal yogi, developing qualities of head and heart. But when Krishna talks about himself, we don't want to think of Krishna out there. Take refuge in me. Oh, Lord Krishna, help, help. At one level, it's better than nothing. But when Krishna talks about himself, he's talking about the self in you. So when he says the way to cross over Maya is to take refuge in Krishna, it means take refuge in the self. Just now, whatever your problems, concerns, and worries are, let's just put it on the shelf for a minute. Let's let everything go. Swamiji used to call tuning up the mind. And see if you can notice, what is your essential nature? Who are you? When you go looking for some person, it falls. What's there is Chid Akasha, the space of pure awareness. Which is so pure, so peaceful. So still. Vedanta thunders. What we are looking for, we are looking with. This is how we cross over Maya. Take refuge in realizing who I am. What? Now again, Vivekachudamani, we have the very famous 7 questions. What is bondage? How has it come about? How does it continue to exist? How do I get out of it completely? What is the not self? Who is the real self, and what's the process of discrimination between the two? What is my bondage? My bondage is I think I'm my body. How has it come about? Avidya, through spiritual ignorance. How does it continue to exist? I do not know who I am. And I think actions are going to get me out. How do I get out of it completely? Ch.7 means of investigation into the self. Okay? What is the not self? Anything that is seeable, knowable, cognizable. What is the true self? Me. Nowhere. Process of discrimination is to withdraw my identity from any form of self. All right, next verse.
Namam dushkritino mudha prapadyante naradhamaha Mayaya pahrita jnana asuram bhavamashritah. The evildoers, the deluded, the lowest of men, do not seek me. They, whose discrimination has been destroyed by their own delusions, follow the ways of the demons.
So the demons. Are there demons out there? Evil spirits and stuff? We're not going to deal with that. The two terms usually we use to deal with demons are asuras and rakshasas. This becomes useful when we see they are states of mind. The asuras are those who are angry. Rakshasas are those who are greedy. So people who have no awareness of the spiritual life, or even more tragic, they know it's there and they don't want it. And they think the answer to my problems is cash and prizes, nor better different. The one with the most toys wins. Engaged in protecting, securing, and defending people. Meaning about 99.9% of the people in the world, especially in the US. Swamiji used to say, America may have a high standard of living, but it does not have a high standard of life. We imprison more people than any other country in the world. What is the major cause of death of people under 25? Anybody know?
Overdose? Overdose?
No, gun
Gun
violence.
violence.
Suicide rates, divorce rates. I think it's still somewhere between 50 and 60%, isn't it? But we do have alcoholism and addiction that's rampant in this whole country. Are we happy as a country living this materialistic life? We may have a standard of living that's high, but I question whether we have a high standard of life. Our values are all twisted up. What was the movie that was about the collapse of the stock market, The Big Short?
Yes.
Yeah.
Everybody remember that one? So all these people who thought it was just fine to ruin billions of people for their own profit. You may know people like that. Yoga says you may have a big house and a fancy car, jewelry and clothes, but is this really making you happy? Now, being rich or poor has nothing to do with the issue. Yoga does not say that it's going to be better if you live in poverty. But it does say that if you have materialistic values, meaning you think this is going to be what makes you happy, then you will become like the asuras and rakshasas. Asuras are angry. Does anyone remember what is yoga's definition of anger?
Thwarted desire.
Thwarted desire or unmet expectation. Yes. Don't believe me. Look to your own direct experience the last time you got angry. Greed is a function of fear. It's not enough. Not getting what I want. It's not enough. And no amount of zeros in your paycheck will free you from fear. And when you are free from fear, the ups and downs of life don't touch you in the same way. Now, Krishna will say in Gita, this knowledge makes you master of this world and the beyond. What should we look at as a value in this world? Swamiji thundered, serve the society. Be useful. Contribute to the well-being of your fellow human beings. That will make you happier. And I want mine. Any thoughts on this? Next verse. Excuse me. Go ahead.
I have a question.
Please.
So you say my values that I hold determine the quality of consciousness or quality of life.
Yes.
So there were certain set of values which were taught to me by my parents, and there were certain sort of values which I learned over time. What I was taught, I can say, okay, these were taught to me, so they were right, and they are leading me to a good path. But how do I test out those values which I learned myself over the period of time, which were not given to me?
Well, blind faith is stupid faith and will fail you in a crisis. So just because these values were given to you by your parents, they may be efficacious or not. So you must test them in the laboratory of your own mind and in the world. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you had intelligent, spiritually minded parents, I hope they inculcated good spiritual sanskaras when you were a kid. Maybe not. A whole lot of Indians get all sorts of other sanskaras, like you're an extension of my ego. If you don't become a doctor or a scientist, I'm a failure as a parent and it will be your fault. Did you get that one as a kid?
No.
But a lot of Indians do.
especially children of immigrants.
If you're not married and having children, what are the relatives going to say? What are you doing to me? Parents say that. Anybody have had parents say that? See, there are other values they give us. They may not call them values, but we get these conditionings. Test them out. You're so smart. You should be a bookkeeper or an accountant. I don't care if you like to dance. You'll never make any money as a dancer. Is that a good value? It's contrary to Gita. Gita says live according to your Swadharma. So we always want to test these values, and some are given consciously and overtly, and many come to us unconsciously. Excellent question. But you want to be a spiritual scientist. And rather than think of faith, think of these teachings as hypotheses. Take on a hypothesis and prove or disprove it in your life. I was talking with a young man this morning, and he's having some struggles with honesty. You know, saying things are broken at Amazon and getting another pair of shoes, and then keeping the other one, and he got them fixed for $5, and got another pair of shoes. And, you know, well, it's Amazon, they're a big corporation, doesn't matter. I'm going to keep the shoes. You know, in my mind, that's stealing. And then I don't know what else he's done, but he did tell me that his car was broken into and a drum was stolen. From my standpoint, I'm going, looks a little bit like karma to me.
No.
Them's that steals get stolen from. A yogi lives an ethical life, not because you get a gold star, but to be other than that is stupid. So we were talking about Dana. He's actually a Buddhist. Who can tell me what Dana is?
What?
Dana.
Donations or charity?
No.
Giving up things.
No. It is the spirit of generosity. We do the donations. Usually, if you go on a meditation retreat, dana is what you give to the teacher at the end of the retreat. People think it's the donations, like Guru Dakshina. But the principle of dana is cultivating the spiritual value of generosity. If you take the risk to practice generosity, little bits in the beginning, you will find your fear of financial insecurity evaporating. That doesn't seem logical, Jim. How can I feel more secure by giving stuff away? Try it. Little bits. Master Jesus said, "It's more blessed to give than receive." He meant it. It's more fun to be generous. These are spiritual principles, but we learn them by practicing. See what happens. See what happens. See what happens if you make a commitment to say, I'm going to give away 1% of my income. before taxes. $100, maybe 2%. Many Western Christian churches suggest that people give away 10%. Few people do it, but that's a suggestion. Why? Because it removes the fear of financial insecurity. You develop all sorts of faith. You see, money is an energy, it's not a possession. Now, this is a good practice for a kid who has integrity issues, because he's a rakshasa, greedy, because of fear of financial insecurity. Anyway, so we want to test these things in the laboratory of our lives. Is that useful?
Yeah. And what if while experimenting it, you are making the set of experiments so that you get the result that you want, not onyx experimentation, how to avoid that.
Say again, I didn't quite.
So let's say I'm testing out a set of values that I want to inculcate in life, and while experimenting it, what if the subconscious mind or myself, person who is stuck in Maya, is manipulating that experiment in such a way that it leads to a result that I want, not what the honest experiment would lead to.
Then it isn't probably going to work very well. So if you're married and you have a commitment to monogamy with your spouse, and you want to test the value of that commitment, and you start going out and cheating on the sly and lying about it, it's just a man-made rule. Go ahead, try it. See how you feel. You unconsciously manipulate. Polyamory, that's what I'm into. And see what happens. See how you feel. See how you feel when you're aware that your behavior is hurting other people. If people feel like trust has been betrayed, if you're conscious, it'll all be made very clear. We can talk more about this. All right, next verse.
Chaturvida bhajante mam jana sukritinorjuna arto jigyasuratharthi jnani cha bharatarshava. 4 kinds of virtuous men worship me, O Arjuna: the dissatisfied, the seeker of systematized knowledge, the seeker of wealth, and the wise, O best among the Bharatas.
So, what he's saying in this verse is very few of us come to the spiritual life with pure motives. Usually, when we start the spiritual life, I want my life to work, and it doesn't seem to be working. So maybe spirituality will help me get what I want. And here he talks about 4 basic kinds of people. So let's break it down. The first is the dissatisfied. It's just not working. Maybe there's a better way. I've made some money, I've got a fancy car, but I'm still not happy. I love to tell the story about Luciano Pavarotti. Do you guys all know who he was?
Yeah.
Very, very famous opera singer, greatest tenor in the world. And his goal was to be the greatest tenor in the world. He was not only had a glorious instrument, but he worked really hard and he had driving ambition. So he made it. He was the top star in the world. And then he went into a terrible depression because he realized this didn't do it. I thought this was going to be the answer to life. It was going to make me happy as long as he could hold that goal out there. I won't go into the whole story, but he was coming into the Milan airport in the middle of winter and the plane skidded on the runway, broke in half. It was, people were killed. And he was there helping people off the plane and stuff like that. But his whole attitude towards his life and his music completely changed. At that point, his values changed. I have no idea if he consciously became more spiritual. Very likely may have. But he certainly had a shift in balance. He was dissatisfied. Many of us start the spiritual path from being dissatisfied. What's the next one? Is Arta the next one?
The seeker of systematized knowledge.
Yes. Many of us try to figure life out. I read enough books, I attend enough lectures, I watch enough YouTube videos. I'll find an answer. Systematize knowledge. Is it this philosophy? Is it that philosophy? I'm not studying Vedanta anymore. I've decided I want to be a Buddhist. Well, that doesn't seem to be working. Maybe I'll become a Seventh-day Adventist. Keep going, try to find something, some systematized knowledge will give me the answer. The third one is wealth, right?
The seeker of wealth.
Yes. People who think the acquisition of stuff is going to make them happy. Can't remember if he's already said it in this chapter, but if he's going to say it, if he hasn't already said it. Everybody in every way is always seeking me. They just don't know it and they do it by the wrong method. We have a God-shaped hole in our hearts, which we try to fill with all sorts of finite things. Eventually we figure it out. And then the next one, wisdom.
And the wise.
The wise. Those who want to know the truth. What is ultimate reality? Next verse.
Tesham jnani nityayukta eka bhaktir vishishyate priyo hi jnani no tyartha maham satcha mama priya. Of them the wise, ever steadfast and devoted to the one, excels, for I am exceedingly dear to the wise, and he is dear to me.
So after we've karmically done, maybe this will work, let me try that, let me do this for lifetimes, there's this divine impulse, actually the Dharma itself, to finally, our minds are pure enough and we've let go of the world enough. And there's that slogan you hear all the time: when the student is ready, the teacher appears. This is the student who seeks this deep wisdom. And what Krishna is talking about here has many names: Atmaramana, Samadhi, Brahmananda Rasa. When the yogi discovers what again Jesus called the pearl of great price, the Chintamani, the wish fulfilling gem, meaning what I really wanted all was this knowledge of the self, the mind retiring into the self. And the self is dear to the yogi. Seems like God is blessing me all the time. But there's no Krishna outside who said, gee, I love Deepa. She's been chanting a lot lately. Okay, give me some grace. God's not around. Love of God, the grace of God, the mercy of God, the forgiveness of God. It's a constant. Our minds that are fickle. All right, next verse.
Udaraha Udara sarva evaite Jnanityatmaiva me matam Astita sahi yuktatma Mameva gatim. Noble indeed are all these, but the wise men I deem as my very self, for steadfast in mind, he is established in me, alone as the supreme goal.
Yeah. So all these others are still at the level where spirituality is a tool to improve my life. But the seeker of wisdom only this I want, but to know the Lord. All this is distraught. This is the person, the greatest wisdom. And it will take many of us time to come to that. But Krishna will also say, even a little bit of this knowledge frees us from great fear. A lot of value of just being a yogi, even though we're not yet women and men of steady wisdom. Next verse.
Bahunam janmanamante Jnanavan mam prapadyate Vasudeva sarvamiti Samahatma sudurlabha. At the end of many births, the wise man comes to me, realizing that all this is Vasudeva, the innermost self. Such a great soul or Mahatma is very hard to find.
So, after many lifetimes, basically with the mind state, well, that didn't work. Let me try this. That didn't work very well. Let me try that. And again, it's not a circle, it's a spiral. Swamiji always used to say it's an evolution, not a revolution. Vedanta is the most compassionate of all religions because everybody makes it in time. Everybody comes home. But those rare souls who have, as the Buddha says, only a little bit of dust on the eyes and wake up. Now, self-realization is not difficult. Krishna will say easy to perform, but it's very, very rare. The reason it's rare is nobody wants it. I may want to know about it, but the price tag is to give up my attachments to enjoyments gained through the senses. Give up my identification with any personal form of self. Such is the power of Maya. Those sirens keep calling to us. Oh, one more time. Any thoughts on this? All right, one more.
कामैस्तैस्तैर्हृतज्ञाना प्रपद्यन्तेऽन्यदेवताः तं तं नियममास्थाय प्रकृत्या नियता स्वया. Those whose wisdom has been looked away,
Looted away, I
looted.
think. Yeah.
Those whose wisdom has been looted away by this or that desire go to other gods, following this or that rite, led by their own nature.
So, I may think I believe in God, that I may worship God, and it can be the formless, which we have in the Semitic religions, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. It can be gods with a form, Krishna or Shiva or Saraswati. But that's not what really he's talking about. If you take the word God, G-O-D, and pull it apart, and we stick in another O, you get G-O-O-D. Good. Listen carefully. My good is my God. If I think love of a partner is my good, it's my God. I don't worship it. I think money is my good, I'm going to worship that. Not that I am at home doing puja to dollar bills. Doesn't mean that. It means that's where my heart is. That's where the focus of my desires. That's where everything is headed. Is it prestige? Is it ambition? Is it a title? It's success with the esteem of my fellows. That's our real God. So in the Jewish tradition, God says to Moses, I, the Lord thy God, am a jealous God. Thou shalt not have any other gods before me. Exoteric understanding is Canaanites who had all sorts of little family gods and stuff like that. The deeper meaning is steady wisdom will not come as long as I think other things are more important. And in the end, everybody's worshiping the Lord anyway. When desire and object of desire become one, in my foolishness and my delusion, I think the widget did it, the person, place, thing, or condition. And what's really happened is for a moment my mind is freed from kama, craving. And I'm getting a taste of the bliss of my own self-nature. But I just don't know it. Then I get attached to the medium by which I was able to induce that state. In the end, everybody's worshiping Krishna. They just don't know it. The great Christian Saint Augustine said it this way: Thou hast made us for thyself, O Lord, and our heart is restless until it finds its rest in thee. Same thing Lord Krishna said. Okay, good place to stop. What verse is next?
21.
21 for next week. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. Sri Guru Pyo Namaha. Hari Om.